Yo, what is up guys? It is your boy Zether, back at it again with part 2 for what if Naruto had Bakugo's explosion quirk. And the last part definitely got a lot of support. A lot of you guys were actually feeling this what if, and so was I. I had a blast recording this, so of course, you know, your boy gotta come back with part 2. With that being said though guys, the like goal for this part will of course be 500 likes and you guys will be getting the next part tomorrow. But with that being said, I don't really want to hold you guys off for too long. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, so in the last part, we had pretty much left off right after Team 7 had pretty much finished their little test with Kakashi, the bell test. Yeah, the bell test, sorry. I usually do my hero, so a little rusty with the Naruto what ifs, you know, it's been a minute. But, you know, enough of that. Anyways, that being said, though, we had finished the test, and we're now basically just going to start covering the 1 month that they have of doing boring missions. During this time period, Naruto would keep training his explosions after taking that huge, humiliating loss by the hands of Kakashi. After that, he would have felt a little bit of a hit to his ego, and this would have prompted him to do way harder training, going above and beyond what he was already doing, and this would actually allow Naruto to actually increase his chakra control and actually start working more on his water nature, his water dragons, and that's where he lost the most to Kakashi. He would have also taken a couple tries to try to, you know, learn that jutsu that he found in the hidden scroll, in the forbidden scroll in Hiruzen's office, that being the flying Raijin. It seems like a really useful technique if you can just teleport all over the place. And he would of course be working on those sweet explosions. So yeah, our boy Naruto would definitely be out here doing his best, as well as hanging out with Hinata every other day and training with her every now and then. From seeing this, Sasuke would have actually realized that they both trained together, and he would have ended up actually asking Naruto if he could actually train alongside him, seeing as he doesn't actually view this version of Naruto as annoying or as a dope. Instead, he actually views this version of Naruto as pretty strong and helpful. This version of Naruto is pretty cocky and obnoxious, granted, but he is definitely strong and he can definitely back up the things that he does. So with that being said, Sasuke would actually end up going up to Naruto and Hinata and asking if he could train with them. Which Naruto would at first be like, yeah dude, you're not training with me. Didn't you remember how you told me that I would only hold you back? As Hinata would say, wait, Naruto-kun, we could actually use him and maybe he could, you know, help us out. As, you know, maybe he could like make you be stronger by becoming your rival or something. As Naruto would hear her out and he would then say, I don't think he could even keep up. As Sasuke would say, huh, that's so? As he would say, alright then, I've been training on my own as well. As we would then have Naruto and Sasuke spend the next week or so pretty much training together. As they would have kept obviously doing their little missions, and Naruto would have started increasing a little bit in terms of his hand-to-hand combat, his explosions, and his water nature, as well as the Flying Raijin training. But the Flying Raijin would have not actually been going anywhere. He would have been struggling quite a bit to learn that technique, seeing as it's actually very hard to master. The chakra isn't a problem whatsoever for someone like Naruto, but just the fact that this jutsu is just one of those things that you don't exactly learn in one day. So that being said, we're now just going to skip on over to the day where they would complete their final mission, and Naruto would just be having about enough of this. He would go inside of the third Hokage's office and say, hey old man, I'm going to need a tougher mission. These missions aren't worthy of my time. I'm wasting it and I'm not making any money. As he would say, not that that's a problem. As Hiruzen would say, oh, it's not a problem. Alright Naruto, how about this? From now on, since you're a full-time ninja and you can make your own money now, I'm gonna stop paying for your rent. As Naruto would say, you can't do that to me. I'm like a son to you. As Hiruzen would say, yeah, but you gotta learn how to be on your own, Naruto. As he would get a little angry and he would say, but what I can do for you is give you a tougher mission. Kakashi actually came in the other day and requested for you guys to have better mission. As Naruto would say, really? And Kakashi would walk inside, like closing his eyes a little bit, doing a smile, as Naruto would basically look towards Kakashi and say thank you. As we would then have them basically be told about Tazuna, and this is when they would be told that their mission is actually going to be tomorrow, which is actually perfect. So the day before, Naruto would be getting his stuff together for the trip, and they would basically just go off. I don't really want to cover too much. So they would end up meeting with Tazuna at the morning, and they would end up walking for a couple of minutes until about 40 minutes later they would stumble across a puddle, which Naruto would find extremely weird. Seeing that he was trained by Lord Third, he would definitely know a thing or two about genjutsus, and he would immediately be on his guard, knowing what's about to come, as he would smile a little bit of a smirk, I guess you could say. And this is when about 3 seconds later, the demon brothers, I believe that's what they called, or something like that. You guys know who I'm talking about. Would basically rush out with their chains, as Naruto would smile and say, "Die!" as he would throw an explosion straight at the brothers' faces, sending them crashing into a tree. And Naruto would then blast himself over to them as he starts unleashing a barrage of explosions straight at one of the brothers, completely knocking him out, with the other one actually being taken care of by Sasuke, who ends up being smug about it, and Hinata would just say, "Naruto-kun," in the background, as, you know, she kind of always does. That being said, though, we would then basically have them look at Zabuza weird, as Kakashi would proceed to confront Zabuza, asking him why those ninjas were coming after them if this is a C rank mission. As Tazuna would of course come clean and explain to them all that their village doesn't have enough money to pay for a higher rank mission, so this is the best that he could do. And Kakashi would understand later, basically saying that they're going to complete the mission. They're already halfway there anyways, as he would thank them for that, and they would basically proceed to essentially just go off, as Team 7 would continue to walk. And this is when a couple of hours later they would have a thick mist appear out of nowhere, as a giant blade would come in flying at all of them, and Kakashi would say, "Everybody duck," as everybody would proceed to basically barely dodge the sword. And this is when Zabuza of the hidden mist would appear, as we would then have Kakashi saying, "Zabuza, so it's you." As we would then have Zabuza basically saying, "Hatake, no, Kakashi Hatake, the copy ninja." As Naruto would basically say, yeah, what do you want?" As we would then have Zabuza say, "That's a feisty brat, huh? Guess I'm gonna have a little bit of fun taking care of you." As he would proceed to basically look at Kakashi, saying, "That is, unless you guys hand over the bridge builder, then we can avoid this all." As Kakashi would say that that's not going to happen. And we would then have Kakashi and Zabuza get into their fight, with Naruto basically barging on in there and exploding over there as he says, "I'ma help." As Kakashi would look towards him and say, "Get out of my way, Naruto." As we would then have Naruto get a little angered by that, but he would just stand back and watch. As the fight between Zabuza and Kakashi would go a lot different, and well, actually no, I didn't mean different, but I meant the same, and Kakashi would still end up being caught, prompting Naruto to use his explosions to blast on over to Zabuza. And as soon as Zabuza would actually create the two clones, Naruto would actually be able to handle them all by himself. Those clones aren't nothing to him, seeing as he trained a lot harder for that month, and he definitely improved his explosions a lot more than what you guys could imagine. That being said, though, we would then have Naruto essentially continue to rush at Zabuza, as he would jump up into the air and say, "A peace shot," as a blast would go straight at Zabuza's body, and he would have to let go of the water bubble prison to basically let Kakashi free. As we would then have the same battle that would happen in canon, except this time when Kakashi uses the water dragon to finish him off, Naruto would also weave the hand signs for the water dragon jutsu. And this one we would have another ninja coming out of nowhere, as this ninja would of course be Haku. She would blitz on in there, grabbing Zabuza before he could even be hit by both of the attacks, and she would then stand by him as she would say, "Looks like you needed some saving," with Zabuza coughing a little bit and saying, "I didn't need your help." And this is when we would then have a situation happening where we would then have Sasuke, Naruto, and Hinata versus Haku and Kakashi versus Zabuza. The battle between Kakashi and Zabuza from here would actually start going a lot different, seeing as Zabuza would finally understand what Kakashi was doing, and he would then realize that he's not looking into the future, but simply copying his movements by looking at his muscles. As we would then have Zabuza and Kakashi part 2 happening, but ultimately Zabuza would end up getting slapped by my boy Kakashi, seeing as he's not about to get caught in a water prison, and since he only has limited amount of chakra left, he knows that he has to end this quickly. So he would use really aggressive tactics to take down Zabuza, and as that's happening, Haku would be fighting against an enraged Naruto who's using explosions left and right, creating a cloud of dust that would end up piling up, as we would then see Sasuke throwing kunais left and right, and Hinata using her Byakugan to basically fight against Haku, or try to fight against her at close range. She would use the what's it called, the palm rotation, to block all of the Senbon that would actually end up being thrown at Sasuke, and we would then end up having Naruto and Sasuke going in to deliver their strongest attacks, with Naruto charging up a huge explosion the same size that what's it called, Bakugo used in the sports festival against Uraraka, and blasted straight at Haku's face, who would have ended up being blown away. And as soon as she got up, she would end up encasing them all in the demon ice crystal mirrors, as we would then see, you know, Haku basically destroying our, you know, our lovely anime protagonists, that being Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata, and she would begin to overwhelm them, throwing Senbons left and right. And seeing as this version of Haku never met Naruto, the holding back aspect would not exactly be there, and this encounter would go a lot different. Of course, Sasuke would end up awakening his one Tomoe Sharingan, and we would end up having Hinata basically use her Byakugan to try to perceive the Senbon, but you know, she can only use palm rotation so many times, and by the end of everything, Sasuke would end up getting hit by all of the needles, with Naruto getting angry and unleashing the one-tailed cloak, as we would then see Naruto basically blitzing over to Haku, breaking the mask and sending her flying into the water, as before he can even land the final punch, we would then see Kakashi slamming the Chidori into Zabuza's chest, and Naruto simultaneously crushing Haku's head after what he did to Sasuke. We would then see Kakashi fall unconscious right after this, and what's her name, Haku, would end up dying due to the, you know, the incredible hit that she just sustained. I mean, sorry, not she, but he just sustained. After this, we would then have the rest of Team 7 essentially pass out unconscious, and Tazuna would end up having to wait about an hour for them to wake up, or at least the main three, other than Kakashi, since he definitely needs his rest. He overused the Sharingan. And we would then have them all basically carry Kakashi over to Tazuna's house, as we would then basically have them all do their normal training, except they would be training together the whole time that Kakashi isn't awake, and in the time that Gato, sorry about that, yes, Gato. But in the time that Gato actually ends up approaching them and like pulling up with all of his men, the situation would actually go by a lot different. Things would not be unfolding in the way that they did in the original, seeing as, well, Haku and Zabuza weren't there, and our Team 7 wouldn't actually be damaged or anything. So they'd be full throttle and ready to go. So as soon as they appear, Naruto would say, "So this is the guy that's been causing you guys trouble?" Seeing as Inari definitely rubbed him on the wrong foot. Speaking of Inari, I'd better cover that, seeing as I can think of a lot of funny things to do. As soon as they would arrive to Tazuna's house, and I don't even know why I didn't do this, but let's just say that this is a flashback. When they arrived to Tazuna's house, Inari would have showed up as they were eating, and he would have ended up telling them that, why are they even trying? Gato and his men are just gonna kill you all, and you're all just gonna die in vain. As we would then have Naruto slam his fist into the table and say that if that kid just wants to whine all day, to go do it. But instead of doing that, maybe this whole time he could have been training to get stronger and defeat Gato himself. He's such a pathetic weakling. You know how many times other people have had to deal with things worse than you, but instead you choose to simply lay there and be weak about things. You can train your hardest and become powerful. As, you know, we would then have a small Inari running away. And as Inari begins to cry, Naruto would simply chuckle, saying, "Cry, baby." As he would end up walking off, and Naruto would finish his food as he would walk off and say, "I'm not hungry." And that's the end of the flashback. We would then cut on over to afterwards as Gato's men arrives, and Naruto would have ended up blitzing over to Gato, as he would say, "So you're the guy that everyone's so afraid of. I don't see what they're so scared of," as he would grab Gato by the shirt and pull him up. as all of Gato's men would be smiling and Gato would just be chuckling, saying, "Put me down, kid. You're gonna die anyways." As we would then have Naruto saying, "Really?" As he would point his hand towards all of Gato's men and he would unleash a full power explosion, which actually ends up incinerating every single one of them. As Naruto would then say, "You were saying?" And Gato's eyes would widen as he would begin to beg for his life, telling Naruto that he'll give him all of his money if he would just spare him. As Naruto would say that, "Oh, that's not up to him." As he would grab Gato and throw him at all of the villagers. As the villagers would proceed to beat on this man Gato in a way that is too gruesome for me to describe on this lovely website that we all know and love as YouTube. And Team 7 would finish that mission about a week. Blood, I need blood. And we would then have Naruto basically just grabbing Konohamaru, as he would say, "I don't know what you guys are doing here. Go back to the hidden sand village." As they would inform Naruto of the reason that they're there, and Naruto would then say that, "Well, I guess we're gonna settle the score on that day, won't we?" As we would then have Naruto basically reporting to Ruzen's office, as he would collect his paycheck, and we would then basically have them all be, basically thrown into the Chunin exams. Also, guys, if you guys can hear some dog barking in the background, I don't know if you will, but if you can, sorry about that. That is my dog, by the way. But yeah. Anyways, that being said, though, we would then essentially have Naruto just basically going off with his team and training for the last week that they have to train before the entirety of the the little exam that they're going to be having. That being said, Naruto would keep training his explosions and he would grow a small percentage. Nothing too crazy. But the greatest person with the most amount of grow would actually be Sasuke. At this point, he would have actually gotten towards the tier of Rock Lee when he fought him. He would barely be at weighted Lee level, and that's essentially what Sasuke is going to be at. So this encounter is going to go a lot different. That being said, Team 7 would approach, the place where they're going to be having the test, and we would then have Team 7 essentially walking up, as we would have Hinata basically say that there's a Genjutsu, with Sasuke saying, "I know." And we would then have Team 7 basically walk by, as out of nowhere we would see a boy with a green little outfit on, a bowl cut, and some thick eyebrows pop up to Sasuke as he says, "You, Sasuke, protege of the Uchiha clan, fight me." As Sasuke would just say, "Your funeral," as he would get into his fighting stance, and we would then have a battle that's actually a lot different than the one in canon. Sasuke using his 1 Tomoe and 2 Tomoe Sharingan, because it's like a little off, I guess you could say, would proceed to actually be able to keep up with weighted Lee, and seeing this, Lee would actually have gone on to take off his weights, as he would proceed to essentially body Sasuke and almost use the attack that he would in canon, but this is when the giant little toad thing would pop up and tell him that he better stop that now. As the battle would have been ended abruptly, and Sasuke would have realized that there's somebody this powerful other than Naruto amongst the ranks of the Genin. As we would then have Team 7 essentially go on over to the written part, and I'm going to skip this. Nobody cares about this part whatsoever. I bet none of you guys want to know what happens here. If you do, you're probably a potato chip. But anyways, with that being said, though, they would pass. That doesn't matter. Everybody who passes would pass, and everybody who fails would fail. That being said, they would all meet Anko outside, and she would be explaining the rules of the hidden the Forest of Death. Yeah, the rules that they're going to be having in the Forest of Death to get the scrolls and all that stuff. And this version, Naruto wouldn't actually be talking or doing anything for Anko to actually even throw the kunai at him. So Naruto would be just fine, and Team 7 would go into the forest, as Naruto would have ended up drinking a little too much than he could handle in the morning, and he would end up telling the team that he actually has to go take a leak. As we would then basically have Naruto go off, but before the snake could even eat him like it does in canon, Naruto would have shot explosions into the air, and his Snickers bar would have been wailing around in the air, as Naruto would proceed to basically say, "You interrupted me, now die!" As he would shoot a full power explosion straight at the snake, basically cooking it from the head, and Naruto would then proceed to basically run, tuck his Snickers bar back into his pants, and basically end up running off to see what his team is up to, seeing if they're still safe. As Naruto would arrive, he would see a snake lady be fighting against Sasuke and Hinata, as Sasuke at this point would be putting up a decent-ish fight, I guess you could say. He's not doing half as bad as he was in canon, but he's not doing that much better at all. So I guess you could say it's not really decent, but it's more of like a one-sided stomp. That being said, though, Naruto would arrive and shoot explosions in front of Orochimaru's, in front of Orochimaru, as he would spin in a circle and he would begin to basically blast right at Orochimaru's face, as Orochimaru's fake mask would basically go off. And this is when Naruto would then realize who this man is. This is Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin. And Naruto would of course know this, seeing as he was raised by Lord Third, somebody who knows all about Orochimaru. That being said, though, Naruto would immediately realize who this is, and he would immediately tell his team that they need to retreat now. As Sasuke and Hinata would say right, and they would end up rushing off, as Naruto would try, but Orochimaru would say, interesting, Naruto Uzumaki, I want your body. As he would have his head basically stretched on over to Naruto, and he would end up biting him on the neck instead of Sasuke, seeing as he wants the power of Naruto's explosion power. He sees that it's extremely powerful and capable, and Orochimaru wants that type of power for himself. Sasuke, Naruto, it makes no difference to him. They're both incredible vessels. That being said, though, Naruto would get bitten, and as soon as he does, Naruto would fall into an extreme amount of pain, as Naruto would begin to start shrieking, and this is when we would have Naruto go into his mindscape, as we would then have Naruto seeing Kurama for the first time, and Kurama would say, what are you doing? I don't even want to do that voice, but he would say, what are you doing here? As Naruto would say, so this is what everybody's been talking about, the famous Nine Tails of the Hidden Leaf Village. As the Nine Tails Fox would look towards Naruto, and he would wonder why he's not terrified like many others are. As Naruto would say that you're not even that intimidating in the first place. With Kurama trying to slash at Naruto behind the gate, Naruto wouldn't even move an inch. And this would cause Kurama to basically chuckle a little bit and say that, looks like he's not a P-U-S-S-Y. As I said that because I don't want to get demonetized, by the way. But yeah, Naruto would then look towards Kurama and say, I guess not. As he would end up basically coming back. And this is when Naruto would have the Two Tails cloak on him, as Naruto would actually end up, burning off the curse seal, and Naruto would then end up launching an explosion big enough to show everybody in the forest, in the forest of death, where their location is, as Orochimaru would have been blown to smithereens, and a little part of him would turn into a snake as it would slither off. But Naruto right after this would immediately blitz back to his team, and he would end up meeting Sakura, oh no, not Sakura, but Hinata and Sasuke by where the scrolls are at. They would take out a small team, and they would end up going off to the tower. And since this time Sasuke didn't end up getting bitten, and Naruto still had enough Nine Tails energy to make it to the tower, they would not end up getting ambushed by the ninjas hidden in the sound, meaning that a lot of counters would actually go a lot different. Lee wouldn't get hurt, and this is when we're now essentially just going to skip on to the battles. They would all be told that they're going to be having preliminaries, seeing as well they have way too many members and they're not going to be able to accommodate for all of them. So they would end up basically telling them all to do their battles, as every single one of the battles would essentially go the same, with Sasuke's being the only real difference. See, in this version, Sasuke would end up basically losing, sorry, not losing, but the Sasuke would end up having more of a one-sided stomp. His chakra reserves weren't weak, he never got bitten, and he's even stronger than our original counterpart of Sasuke is. So this version would do a lot better than our old one. And that being said, though, we would then end up have Naruto having his battle against Kiba. As soon as the battle would begin, Naruto would go down as Kiba would say, looks like this is going to be a tough battle, huh, Akamaru? As we would then have Naruto basically cracking his neck and fists. As we would then basically have Kiba saying, Akamaru! As Akamaru would say, Arf! And we would then basically have them both do the wolf fang over fang. As they would blitz on over to Naruto, but Naruto would dodge out of the way. And he would immediately shoot his explosion straight at Akamaru and Kiba, as Akamaru would fall out of that form, and we would then have Kiba basically grabbing himself with a kunai. As he would begin to lunge towards Naruto, Naruto would then proceed to, you know, hit the kunai out of his hand, catching it with the back one, throwing it up into the air, and Naruto would then kick Kiba away, kicking him right under his chin as Kiba would be sent back flying, and Naruto would then jump into the air, using his explosions to spin in the air, and on some cool cinematic looking type stuff, he would kick the kunai straight into Kiba's sweater thing, you know, keeping him down on the ground. As Kiba would be trying to remove the kunai, Naruto would come in with an amazing explosion as he says, "Die!" on some acrobatic type stuff, just spinning on some, you know, Nightwing, and we would then have Kiba basically be taken out by that. After that, it would be announced that Naruto Uzumaki is the winner, and this is essentially where, you know, everybody who passed the test would end up passing, and everybody who pretty much just failed would obviously still end up failing the Chunin exams. That being said though, this is actually where we're going to be leaving this all off. If you guys want part 3, make sure to go down below, and as I had already stated, go ahead and hit that like button, seeing as I'm going to be needing 500 likes for the next part. That being said, share this video around with a friend, tell a friend to share this video, and go ahead and go down below, hit that subscribe button if you guys enjoyed the video, as well as the like button, and turn those post notifications on, as you guys don't want to miss a single one of my uploads. That being said though guys, it has been your boy Zether, and I am out. Peace.